Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order, 7 o'clock, and I'll turn it over to Councillor Tucky. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to begin with the acknowledgement of First Nations. The Mayor and Council wish to acknowledge the town of Fort Smith is located within Treaty 8 territory. Treaty 8 territory also encompasses the traditional homelands of the Salt River First Nation, Smith Landing First Nation, and the indigenous Métis people of Fort Smith. These nations have maintained stewardship of the sacred lands throughout the generations. We honor your knowledge, teachings, traditions, and the land. We are also mindful that colonization has not been kind. We respectfully recognize our generational histories and commit to strive for unity in the spirit of truth and reconciliation. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 7:02. Any delegations? Not seeing any. Declaration of financial interest. Councillor Couveret.
It's not a financial interest disclosure, but I do have a conflict of interest with item under other business, the briefing note for the Northern Life Museum and Cultural Center.
Thank you, Councillor Couveret, and we'll excuse you if we need to. Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll move on. The agenda was reviewed. Can I have a motion from the floor to accept the agenda as presented?
I move that the agenda be adopted as presented.
Seconder?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion passed unanimously. Minutes of the Corporate Services Standing Committee minutes of July 4th, 2023 were reviewed and adopted at a regular meeting of Council on July 18th, 2023. We're all aware of our visions and values in this strategic plan. And we'll carry on to governance, infrastructure renewal. Any discussion? Sorry. Councillor Couveret.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had a quick question in regards to item B on the agenda, minutes from our July 4th corporate services. Under item 7, administration, it was item D, where we're talking about paving, and we were also looking at the possibility of chip sealing Marine Drive, which was voted down. I was wondering, though, there was some discussions about the need for dust control on the Marine Drive, and I was just wondering if we can get an update either at this or at the Municipal Services meeting of what the plans are for dust control on Marine Drive.
Mr. Kidd, would you like to comment on that?
Thank you, sir. I will follow up with the Director of Municipal Service for next week.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councillor Campbell.
Water and sewer at Connie Bear Park. Is it in there up to where we want to do it before we pave the parking lot? Do we want to go off the new lines coming into for our new water and sewer?
Mr. Kidd.
Thank you. My understanding, there is already utilities to that property. If you want to have new installation, that's something that you can discuss and direct us.
Councillor Campbell.
Well, I just want to make sure that we're not going to be digging it up later, going across all the hills and whatever. And I thought my understanding was that outhouses were on the south side of the lot. So we're not, hopefully not digging up everything in between there.
So is the instruction you want to pass on to administration for us to follow up?
Have a question, Mr. Kidd?
Yes,
Just wondering, isn't there any engineering plans that would indicate or give us the answer to that where the current water and sewage lines are?
so my understanding that there was a building there before that had that service, and the service is still there. I'm not very familiar with all the particulars. I know there has been a study on the modernization of the Connie Bay Park, and I don't know the full details. But if there's something specific that you're seeking, then please give me the direction and I get back to you.
Councillor Campbell?
What I'm asking for is, do we know the size of the water and sewer coming in from the old existing one? And is that going to be sufficient for the new place? Property size for the fixture unit loads and everything? The water? And should we be coming off with a new one off the 4-inch? We know it's properly graded and everything. We don't know what hasn't been used for how many years, what's the condition of it is like or anything. Are we just opening up another can of worms with problems? That's why I'm asking before we start paving this parking lot. If we could have the engineers tell us that the line is good coming from the old one. It's not going to be, we don't want to dig up half the park or else just come in from the road on Brainerd Street. I don't want to see all this pavement and everything dug up after. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Perhaps something that's you and the Director of Public Works can determine where the current water lines are and if they're a hindrance to the future plans of the park.
That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking if we have the engineer's plans of the building, not the Director of Public Works that's just saying, yes, the water and sewer. Are we sufficient fixture unit loads, the drain is going to handle and everything? That's what I'm asking for. What's our design? How many washrooms, how many kitchens, what we have in there and what do we need for proper drainage? Not, yes, we just have a 3-inch line coming in there. Do we have a proper 4 or 6 inch or whatever we need before we get the pavement down? That's what I'm asking about. Can you have the engineering firm give us, seeing if the lines are usable?
Definitely, that's something that I can follow up with.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll move on to governance. Mayor Daniels.
Okay, so now that we have a new person in the seat, I'm going to try this once again. Is those ditches? When I brought up those ditches, I know we were torn down because of old policies and procedures, bylaws, whatever. But those things they're probably about 10, 15, 20 years old, and I would like to really see those ditches filled. And I had spoke to the engineers in the fall time of last year to take a look at it. How do we develop it? I always would talk to Public Works guy and said, yeah, we could do that. But when I brought it up again, it just sat there. And I certainly believe that it's opening us to a lawsuit. If an old timer on their bikes with their bikes and they come off that sidewalk and roll in that ditch and the machine rolls on top of them, I refuse to take a lawsuit. And I think they should be filled in. I'm really scary about that. So thanks. And, you know, if it's policies, I mean, we could change them.
Councillor Couverture.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I hear the concerns of our mayor with the Connie Bear Park. Unfortunately, it's not in our current 2023 capital plan. I don't think that precludes council, mayor and council asking administration to undertake the necessary review of what it would take to move forward to undertake the filling of the ditches or ensuring that disabled access and mobility issues to Connie Bear Park are fully addressed. I don't believe the redesign request for proposal and the study that came out of that actually looked into that aspect of it. They just looked at the basic layout of the park and amenities that would be offered there. They didn't look at things such as the ditches and things like that. So it might be something that we can do over the winter and have it as an additional item to be considered as part of next year's capital plan.
Thank you, Councillor Couverture. Any further discussion? Certainly agree with what you said. Governance, infrastructure renewal.
I have nothing to add to governance. We recently just had a meeting with the NTPC Intervention Committee, and the minutes from that meeting are included in this package.
Thank you, Mr. Kidd. Hopefully everybody had a chance to review those. Economic growth. Councillor Couverture.
Yeah, just under the government's one item, the item G, which is post-secondary education committee. There was a significant announcement, I believe either yesterday or this morning, from the Minister of Education saying he's actually approved the transformation of Aurora College into a polytechnic. And I think it would be appropriate at this point to, as chair of the post-secondary education committee, to I'll be putting out a notice to the rest of the committee members to sit down and have a quick chat about making sure that our action plans and things to address Fort Smith remaining the post-secondary education capital of the NWT is firmly entrenched into the minds of the board.
Thank you, Mr. Couverture. Moving on to communication. I think there's anybody here from communication. Lands? Anything from Lands?
Lands is now in the portfolio of the Department of Protective Service. So if he has if Mr. McNabb has anything concerning the land, he will bring it to your attention next week.
Thank you. Human resources. Seeing nothing. And moving on. Director's report, accounts paid list. Any questions? Councillor Couverture.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Typically, I don't like diving down into administrative issues. There was one item on the paid invoice listing that sort of I know I'm surprised Councillor Campbell is not up in arms on this one. It's item 40853. I don't have a question. Well, I have a question about why we're going to Brodart Canada to buy pens and things like that. It's not a big expenditure. It's only a little over $400. But I can think of at least two places within our community that you can buy those type of staples. So I've mentioned it before, and I will keep driving it, is I really think we need to establish a local procurement policy and look at updating our process for acquiring goods locally and how we tender and things like that. So I'd really like to see that as a urgent item coming up. We're I don't want to say the word fall, but we're fairly soon. We will be into the fall, and we can consider ourselves busy. I think it should be part of the budgeting process where we, yes, there is going to be a bit of a premium possibly to be paid for some of our local purchases, but I think a lot of our taxpayers would support the community or the town corporation supporting local businesses. So if we can, for our next corporate services meeting, get a timeline for reviewing our purchasing policy, that would be appreciated.
Thank you, Mr. Councillor Couverette. Any other?
So I just want to put a few things in the record for, as a director of corporate services. So we were just earmarked $1,079,000 for the wildlife fire break. That's from the WNTAC, from the WMATC, NWTAC, for $1,079,000 for wildlife fire breaks, and we can start recovering from July 2022. There are no procedures right now on how to recover any spending. This was just rolled out because of our situation, so they're still trying to figure out the reporting requirements for us. The Primrose Lift Station just had to replace a pump, $13,000, and the old pump is going to be reconditioned and put into stock. The water meter upgrade in the Caribou and Tamarack area, the contractor is experiencing some difficulties there because these buildings are old. This project has been on the go for a very long time, so the plumbing and so forth in that area has deteriorated. So the cost might escalate in that area, maybe from $400 a unit to $1,200 a unit, and because of the extra work. And no, this is my report. Sorry.
Actually,
Yes.
are we finished with the accounts payable?
Oh, sorry.
Before we proceed, actually, I had a couple of questions. DHT Contracting, is that a local contractor? Well, what's entailed with greater training? And I'm just wondering, why aren't we accessing the college to do some training for us? If our people need such training, why aren't we involving them with a college program to get certified training?
I really can't speak to it. I can follow up. I'm not too sure the college offer this program. I don't know. But that's definitely something I can follow up with.
Well, seems to me with all the discussions that we've had around Aurora College, and especially lately with becoming a polytechnic university, and they do offer heavy equipment training, the town should be ingratiated to support our local college if we want to keep programs here in Fort Smith. That was one concern I had. Check number 40875, Corn Ferry Hay Group, job evaluation services for $957. What's that entail?
Job evaluation, job description.
Okay, check 40869, Big Hill Services Limited, Arena Ice Supplies. We get ice supplies from a different person who provides us the ice making equipment. So don't Simcoe offer the same kind of supplies? Or is that different?
That's for the paint. I assume that's for the paint and different stuff. It's a different supply. Simcoe just does the cooling and the things.
Okay, that's the only two questions I had. Anybody else? Mayor Daniels?
Yeah, something to think about for council is you brought up that 1.7 million? And that's for the fire. Hey, I don't know, but he was talking about that. Okay, just go on to this and I'll continue later.
Any further discussion in relation to accounts payable? Thank you. Seeing none, we'll move on. Correspondence? Councillor Campbell.
Doris Burke, I haven't seen a letter at all. Request for use of outdoor space for community gospel. When did that do? Do we have to get a reading on this or?
No, she had called me and I told her just to do a letter to mayor and council and asking for that property. And it's probably the one by Luz, I'm assuming. They used to have it there before, but to this day I haven't seen the letter on it. And there's probably bathrooms that they're gonna need in there. So, but I haven't seen anything first for it yet.
No discussion? Moving on to bylaw policy review and development. Councillor Couveret.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I'd like to, I know the Director of Corporate Services was in mid part of presenting his report. It's sort of out of the sequence, but I think we should actually hear what the report, the Director's report is.
Thank you, Councillor Couveret.
Okay, so I can just finish. The other thing and the report was we did a request for tender for the lagoon liner replacement for the raw water intake and main lift station and for the community plan and zoning bylaw. Okay.
Councillor Couveret.
Thank you. In your earlier rendition of the report you were mentioning, there was 1.7 million available under the, I want to say Fire Smart, but I think fire abatement program. And I'm just, and you also mentioned that we could go back to July 2022 for claiming expenses against that. I'm just, do we have, I guess my question would be, do we have expenses that we feel that would be eligible for reimbursement? And if so, can we use those funds to do, once we get reimbursed for that, dedicate those funds towards additional fire smarting activities this year before the funding actually runs out? And the second part of this is the 1.7, what is the timelines for us to undertake and expend those funds?
Mr. Kidd?
So I recently received the email a couple of days ago, and we follow up to get the reporting requirements. So I don't have the reporting requirements. That's outstanding. And so I am not sure what is eligible and what is not eligible under the program.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, I believe there was supposed to be $2 million there. So if there's 1.7, there's already money gone out of that account. So my problem is this is coming from the federal government, okay, given to the NWT. Now that's not saying that NWT is going to run everything. I think we should put in a letter saying that no, the town of Fort Smith will run their own money. We take that money, put it in our bank account, and it makes interest. Instead of having Yellowknife handing it out to us and then giving us administration charges on our own money. I totally disagree with that because it's federal dollars and we could do that. I suggest that we go there with it instead of NWT taking their cut out of our money. So anyway, that's what I wanted to put in.
Councilor Bissinger.
Yes, thank you. Just a follow-up to the mayor's comment, if Mr. could answer, is the money flowing through the GNWT or are we directly getting it from the federal government?
No, we get it from the NWTPC. I don't have the requirement. I just received an email. No, it was earmarked. So earmarked just mean someone did a calculation. So that's what you get. You don't have any other information.
Councilor Campbell?
This money was what the minister announced last time in Yellowknife last year at the time. This is the money that's coming down the line now. When we were in Yellowknife last year, for all the communities, they put application in for us and everything. So they're just a middle person. They get, the federal government gave it for all the communities in the Northwest Territories.
Mayor Daniels?
Yes, and then what I'm proposing is to take out the middle person so we make more money. So it's not stated that GNWT is the recommended person to deal with all these 23 communities. No, it just, they're doing it and they're going to make a cut on it because they're going to charge us administration fees on their own money. And I disagree with that. I think we could look after our own money, make our own money. So at the end of the day, we still have $40,000 in there that we generated money for. Right, thanks.
Any further discussion? Moving on to administration. Mr. Kidd?
I have nothing else to add.
Thank you. Other business, briefing note from NLMCC contribution request, Whooping Crane Festival. Briefing note was reviewed. Open for discussion.
So,
I thought we already talked about this one and we weren't going to give a donation because we're helping the college cover the cost of lunches. This was, we already talked about previous meetings.
can I introduce?
Certainly can, yes, go ahead.
Yes, please. So this one is from the Northern Lights Museum Cultural Center for the Whooping Crane Festival. They're seeking $2,000. The background is that so far this year we have already provided them with at least $55,000, $35,000 in grants, and about $20,000 in staff and equipment. There is about $6,400 remaining in the budget, and there is a pending request from another organization for $5,000.
Councillor Campbell?
Yeah, I think this is just a different wording from when they said that the college was putting on the lunch, and this is just a different wording for them to. I think the government organization has more money than us. They could foot the bill for the food and everything. And we don't know if this Whooping Crane Festival it's canceled right now. It's on the news there. So I'm not in favor of this right now.
Well, I think I have to myself agree with Councillor Campbell because it seems to me we did discuss this already. And this just seems to be coming to us from a different angle. Again, there's a lot of government support here. I think there's, like, as Mr. Campbell says, there's a lot more funding available through the government organization than there is through what the town has allotted for contributions to the community. And this event seems to be more organized by government agencies, and I don't think we need to be this involved in it. Thank you. Any further discussion? So we need a motion on the floor.
Can I make a motion that we don't support Whooping Crane Festival contribution request? Thanks.
And is there a seconder?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion? Mayor Daniels? Passed unanimously. Councillor Pissinger.
I just have a quick question for Mr. Kidd. How much did you say we have left in our budget for donations?
6,450, and there is a pending request for 5,000 from Slide Zone Shrill.
Okay, thank you.
Excusing of councillors. And carry on with the excusing of councillors. Can I have a motion on the floor, please?
I move that Deputy Mayor McDonald, Councilor Ferguson, and Councillor Kroll be excused from tonight's meeting, Corporate Service Standing Committee meeting on August 1st, 2023.
I'll second.
All in favor? Passed unanimously. Date of next meeting, the next Corporate Services Standing Committee meeting will be on September 5th, 2023. Have a motion for adjournment, please.
I move that we adjourn at 7:33.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Carried unanimously.
5-minute break?
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Someone's mic's on. At 7:30, and I'll hand it over to Councillor Campbell.
Thank you. Mayor Daniels. The corporate service meeting, no delegations. Declaration of financial interest. Seeing none, we'll move on to the agenda.
I move the agenda be adopted as presented.
I'll second that.
Any questions? Seeing none? All in favor? Passed unanimously. Okay, the minutes of the Protective Services Standing Committee of July 4th, 2023 were reviewed and adopted at the regular meeting of council on July 18th, 2023. Vision and values. Director's report. Protective Service, McNabb?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So it's been a busy month, definitely, for my departments. I'll start with structural fire. So the structural fire department had several calls. One of them was a major structure fire. I just want to say that after fire investigators came up, we were given a great review. Certainly the folks that responded did an excellent job. The structure, while damaged, and we give our heartfelt sympathies for that, was left standing, which is incredible considering how quickly the fire was moving. And very importantly, the exposed structures were not affected on either side of the duplex. We would also like to express our gratitude to all of the agencies that responded with us. So all the different forest fire agencies that came to our aid and helped us, because it did get into the trees, ran through the grass in the backyard. So that was all great work, really good coordination in the community, and excellent work from the volunteer group. EMS, we've been short-staffed. It's summertime. A lot of our members are wildfire crews, so we're short-staffed there, people on vacation, leave, things like that. But the volunteer group that has remained in town has stepped up and has covered a lot of call. So a big kudos to them as well. Occupational health and safety, right now we're just wrapping up some WSCC reports that came from some inspections of town facilities. And from that, we're going through some supervisor safety training courses with some of our frontline supervisors, which is really a great course for making sure that safety is ingrained in the things that we do every day in our organization. Bylaw, unfortunately, we had to say goodbye to our bylaw officer, Adam Wiedrich. He resigned to move down south, be closer to family. He had a great job opportunity come up, so we'll miss him for sure. I appreciated all the hard work that he did. That job has just been posted today, so we'll be looking forward to applications on that role. I have been responding to bylaw calls, but only if they're urgent in nature. Otherwise, I haven't been able to do a lot of proactive bylaw enforcement, but I'm still trying to keep that portfolio moving forward. Likewise with lands, processing development permit applications as they come in, trying to forward a couple of ongoing enforcement issues that we already had open. But with no lands officer, only so much can be done in the interim. However, that job was posted and since filled, and our new lands officer will be starting on August 8th, so Tuesday of next week after the civic holiday, and we'll be working on onboarding with him. So we look forward to welcoming Nick Carberry to our organization. There has, over the last month, been a lot of interest from folks in and out of the community about the properties over in the West Grove development area. So I've been working on providing information to a number of people that are either looking to develop just a single residence or people that are actually looking for multi-dwelling properties, and giving guidance on how they can either come to Mayor and Council to look for some rezoning or conditional use permits, or to consider other options. So working with interested parties on that, which is really good to see. When it comes to emergency management, we've been busy, and that's where a lot of my time's been spent over the last couple of weeks, as I'm sure you're all aware. So there has been an ongoing incident management with wildfires in the area. I've been trying to keep mayor and council updated as much as possible with daily briefs on what's going on with all the fires in the area, the management of them. Just this weekend on Saturday, with guidance from ECC and Alberta Wildfire, we moved to an evacuation notice. That wasn't a decision that was taken lightly, and it was based on some predetermined trigger lines and fire behavior, as well as considering the lack of resources in the region and the fact that there are so many emergency management issues across the north. We considered it prudent just to notify people in our community that preparation and general preparedness was a really wise move. So there was a little bit of panic initially. Certainly people were a little bit concerned, but that also got people out, got them filling their tanks with gas, got them thinking about packing some bags and making some plans for where they would go, what they would do with their pets, how they would help their vulnerable family members and things like that. So really that is the purpose of an evacuation notice, is just to trigger our community members to pay closer attention to the media, follow the ongoing events around us, and make sure that they're prepared in advance. We've seen wildfires behave aggressively this season, and certainly we've seen drought codes and drying trends that are more extreme than normal. Additionally, we saw the highway close only briefly. That was on Sunday, and that was just a proactive approach that Parks took as the Fire 7 coming out of the park was advancing towards the highway. Fortunately, they saw some good wind shifts and weather changes and were able to get ahead of that with the heavy helicopter that they just brought into the community. So the highway was reopened since then. In general, with all of this wildfire work, we've seen a ton of collaboration, really good collaboration amongst all of the responding agencies. They've included the town in their daily briefs, which is really helpful for getting information out. So that's an ongoing situation. We're going to continue to assess the wildfires around the community. Hopefully we'll continue to see this cool, wet weather and we can put this all behind us and lift the evacuation notice. But as it stands, the evacuation notice is still in place, as with the fire ban, both municipally and in the South Slave region. Thank you.
Thank you for that good report. And moving on to Protective Services. Fire Department Statistics, July 2023. McNabb?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Would you like me to just go through each of these stats?
Please.
Sure. So over the course of the last month, we have seen 7 incidents that the Structural Fire Department has attended, the major one being that structural fire. We also attended that same fire scene the next day to help with some salvage work for the folks that were displaced from the building, just to make sure that somebody was able to enter the structure safely and get out some of the more important and vital stuff that they needed. So we helped out with that. Ambulance calls were a little bit below average. Well, they were pretty much tracked on average with 21 calls for the month. Medevacs were average, but right now, because the health center has evacuated all their long-term care residents and closed their inpatient beds for the time being, we'll be seeing a few more medevacs, I think, in the short term, just because they won't be accepting inpatients and will likely be transferring more patients out of the community. We had a lot of training over the course of the last month with 13 different training events. A lot of that is around the ongoing NFPA 1001 fire training that we're doing for some of our new fire members with the structural department. bylaw, again, we've been concentrating on the identified portfolio or bylaws that we will be enforcing over the summer months, mostly around ATV, traffic, garbage, unsightly, civic addressing, things of that nature, with 20 total infractions. Some SOTIs were issued, but a lot of it is either ongoing enforcement matters or education and warnings. Likewise, with land and development, we're primarily working now on just processing development permit applications at this point because of vacancy in the lands position. But we are still working on forwarding some of our enforcement activities around the unsightly lands bylaw, land administration bylaw, and garbage and civic addressing bylaw. That kind of goes across both of those departments. And that is all I have for you there. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like a big shout out to the job well done from all the council members, I think. Everything goes good. And then we'll move on to the advisory boards. Sustainable Development Advisory Board, anything to report? Seeing none, we'll move on to bylaw review development. Seeing none, administration. We got one briefing note here. Do we want to speak on McNabb?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yep, it's a briefing note for a home occupation development at 31 Tamarack Crescent. That's an RMH zone. It's for a artwork business, primarily making knives, jewelry, carving. The business owner does not see much traffic to the residents. It'll be mostly manufacturing of these different pieces of art, and there will be no alterations to the structure, no signage, nothing of that nature. Thank you.
Councillor Couvret?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the recommendation that DPA -023-040 submitted by Levi McDonald to operate a home occupation, McDonald Northern Arts, from lot 787, Plan 490, 31 Tamarack Crescent in Fort Smith be approved.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Pass unanimously. Thank you. Other business, seeing no other business. Moving on to excusing of, Mayor Daniels.
Okay, under bylaw, there was a committee, they were looking at bylaw on secans. Have we got anything out of there yet? Any movement or suggestions? Like for council?
Protective Services.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Director, Mayor. The CCAN issue, so the bylaw regarding CCANs in a residential area is actually a part of the zoning bylaw. So it is a section inside of the zoning bylaw, which is up for review. It just went out for RFP for a company to put together the review of the whole zoning bylaw because it is a cycled bylaw. So when it goes through review, that would be an opportunity for both the community and mayor and council to give input on that bylaw. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, no, I was just trying to keep ahead of it because of the timeline there. We put it out, 2 months ago, I think?
Okay, seeing no other business, moving on to excusing of councillors.
Thank you. I move that Deputy Mayor McDonald, Councillor Kroll, Councillor Ferguson be excused from the Protective Services Standing Committee meeting on August 1st, 2023.
I'll second.
Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Date of next meeting, the next Protective Services Standing Committee meeting will be on September 5th, 2023. Adjournment.
I move the meeting be adjourned at 7:52.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Thank you. That was short and